Welcome everyone to this session where we're going to see how do we validate input data using frameworks like Joi and Express Validator. Whenever somebody is sending input data in JSON format from a client to a server, the server needs to validate what input is coming. Especially in today's no trust architectures being present, these REST APIs which you build at the server end may not know where the client request is coming from. Hence, it is imperative that you validate all the input data. You need to check things like mandatory fields, doing length checks of values, range value checks, strings checks, number checks, date checks, various kind of applicable laws or rules that you want the input data to adhere to needs to be validated. There are two common frameworks which are used nowadays in the world. One is called Joi and the second is Express Validator. Today we're going to see an example of both of them. Okay? So Joi is a particular framework used to validate JSON formats and JSON schemas. Express Validator is a framework which is around the validator.js module and is particularly meant for express routes. Okay, we're going to start with Joi. Let's get started with Joi. We are going to open our Visual Studio Code. If you remember, this is where we have our previous student code, right? We had the get ID, post one, so we can open up Postman and just see if everything is working or not. For that, let's start the server. Server's on. Let's do a get. Okay, it works. Now, because we're going to test two separate frameworks, I will use the get route to test the Joi framework and the post to test the Express Validator framework. Okay. Okay. For Joi, we need to first install it. So we have to write npm i@happy joy -- safe. Okay, this installs a Joi. Then at the top level, we are going to declare two lines saying constant Joi equals to require happy joy and constant student schema equals to joy.object. Let's validate first name as a mandatory field. Okay, and then we'll simply close this. Right now, inside the read all, we're going to remove this message and we want to replace this with a try catch. Okay. Give an error here. Outside the try catch, we'll give a confirmation message. Hello, get all. And inside, all we have to do is write this. Constant value equals to await student schema dot validate sync request dot body. Since we have given await, we'll have to write a sync onto the function. We will explain the async and the await concepts in the next video. Okay, let's try and run this. The server is up. So if we go and run this, if you see, we have put all the code in the get route. So if we come here and say submit, we say hello get all. Now let's say we remove the first name field from here. What do we get? Okay, we faced an error. Hmm. Okay, this respond object has to be within the try catch. Let's close the server, run this again. Okay, so we see here the first name is required, right? So it did not allow us to submit a data set without first name. Now let's add some more rules on top. Okay. Let's maybe make last name as optional. Okay, so if we do that, now see this, since last name is optional and we have given it, the next error that comes is for gender. Okay. Now let's say we remove last name and say submit, you will see it is still giving a gender error and not a last name error. Okay, now let's go back to the code. Let's add a gender validation. Here, let's say we give a list that the values should only be between male and female. Now, if we go back to the data, if we see male, you'll see the error is for mobile. But if I say male TR, it will say gender must be either male or female. Okay. Now let's go back to the code. Let's add another validation for, let's say, mobile, which is a number-based validation. So for mobile, for numbers, generally we can do minimum, maximum, we can define ranges. Okay, let's do this. Let's go here. The validation that we have entered is it's a minimum of about 100 million. So if we go back and submit, it works. If I reduce this to, let's say, 4 digits, you'll see mobile number must be larger than this number. Okay, let's go back. Now let's add something for email. Now in Joi, there is a direct confirmation for email. So we can say there are two main domains where we'll allow com or .NET, and basically TLDs is top level domains, and trim and it is required. Okay, let's go back and see the error. If you submit this, by default we get a DOB error, but let's say we change the format, we remove the @ in email and hit submit. Let's say email must be a valid email. Okay, and lastly a DOB, a date kind of error. Okay, we say okay, dates must be earlier than 1st January 2010. We come here, if we give this, okay, let's get the @ back. See, no error in date of birth, but if we make this as 2011, you'll get an alert. The date must be less than equal to a certain number. You can check out more options of Joi on the NPM site of Joi itself. Right? They have a lot of examples for various kinds of strings, numbers, dates, what all kind of, even you can validate headers and other aspects of the request. Okay. All right. Now, one of the things that will happen here that if you have a large data object, this file is going to become very busy. So one of the things that you can do is actually cluster all of this into a function and put it into another file and simply call that function for validating your input request. Okay. So here what we have done is created a file called student_Joi validate. Okay. Basically, if you see here, we have just imported Joi, similarly just declared a student schema object. Okay. Then created an async function called validate student details. Okay. And we have exported our function. In the function, we have made the same statement saying constant value is await equals to await student schema dot validate async object. Okay. To call this function, all we need to do is, I'm going to take this line of code from somewhere else. Okay, you can remove this entire bit. We can remove the happy bit. Basically, import the validator file, and inside this, instead of writing this, we can simply put this. Yeah. So if you see here, we have reduced the size of our route file. Okay. We have simply put all the validation code in another file here. So if you have a large object and you have multiple fields, you can put all of them in one place in another file. And from your route file, basically import the JS file and simply call this function. Okay, we'll save everything and go to Postman and click submit. Okay, you see the same kind of errors are being validated. Let's remove gender and see gender is required. Okay, so functionality works in the same way. Now that we have seen how Joi works, let's also look into Express Validator. For Express Validator, we need to install the package first. So I'm going to shut down the server and write npm install save express validator. Okay, it's done. Okay. For express validator, we need to declare a constant. We want to declare two variables, check valid and validation result equals to require express validator on top. Okay. Now, since we have already done the get, let us go to the post part of it. Here, in the main, we want to remove this reason. In the post part, we want to remove this line and basically put a try catch here. Okay, I'll explain it in a bit. So it says constant errors, a validate result is from the requirement body. If there's an error, send the error, otherwise send the message, hello, create all, data is valid. Now, where do we put the validation code here? That piece is put after this aspect. Okay, and then okay. Okay, so here we're checking first name is not empty. This is in the post. Let's fire up a server. Go to Postman, and instead of get, let's do a post. First, let's send the original data. You say data is valid. Let's remove first name, and it says name must be present. Okay. All right, now let's add some more validations to it. Let's say last name is optional, but if present needs to be more than 50 characters. This is how we'll do it. Check last name dot optional dot is length max 50. Let's see how it reacts. We have the last name, submit. Okay. For the sake of testing, let's reduce this to, let's say, 5. Okay. Go back here and add some more text to the last name, and you say invalid value for last name. Okay. All right. Now let's add some more validations. Let's say for gender. Okay. So here again, we want to check the values of gender between male and female, and then give an appropriate message. Let's go back to Postman and see. Let's add some values for gender, and it says invalid value. Okay, we have to change our last name option back to 50. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's add some more validations. Let's say number, mobile, right? We want to validate it as a number. So we can say check mobile is numeric. Let's add the alphabet to it. Okay, so for number, we can do is numeric. Let's add some more. For emails, we can go back, say email is email.normalize email. Let's go to our Postman, and again, let's remove the @ We have an invalid value for email. Okay, and lastly, a date of birth check. We say, okay, date of birth must be in this format. So we go back to Postman and normally hit submit. Okay, we need to correct the email first, hit submit. Data is completely valid. Okay. So now you see how both the Joi framework and the Express Validator framework can be used to validate input data, and we can do different kinds of validation between text, numbers, dates, ranges, mandatory fields, and so on. Okay. Now that we have seen how input data can be validated, another aspect that one needs to take care of while getting data from the outside is the issue of if a person is sending malicious data, right? Now, somebody is aware of your API, but he or she is intentionally tried to send certain characters which may which will make your API behave in a way which you may not want it to. Okay, and the way to do it is by the use of sanitization. Right? Now, when you send information in a form, something like first name, and add some special SQL characters into it, or something like last name with a percentage, or email with a star or asterisk, your node may, by mistake, interpret these as valid characters and send them onto the database. And the database will also interpret these as special SQL queries and give back certain responses which you may not have originally intended to do. For more definition about SQL injection, I'm going to share a couple of links down below. You can have a look. Here, we are just going to see how certain data points, while you are accepting data, could be sanitized. Okay. Now, if you ask why is this important, if you look at the OWASP top 10 list, injection is the first in a list of 10. It is one of the most widely used vulnerabilities that one needs to take care of while developing web applications. And that is why it's extremely important to take care of this while accepting data in a REST API. Okay, now let's jump into the code. We're going to use the /ID for get as the route in which we are going to experiment with this. So today, if we first just run the server, npm run dev, if I go to Postman, say localhost 5000 API v1 student and give an ID, I should just get hello read 1. Okay, now let's go back to the code. Here, I'm going to add a statement with saying original string, give some HTML characters and some special characters, right? So there's star and equal to. Now we are going to apply certain logic to remove these special characters like HTML tags as well as other special characters that we want. Okay. Okay. So we're going to put in a variable saying strip string equals to original string dot replace things between these brackets. It will remove these HTML codes. And we shall simply print this on the console. Okay, the server has been restarted. Let's go and hit send. Okay, let's check the console. If you see the string, all the HTML quotes have been removed. However, the special characters like the asterisk and the equal to are still here. Right? To remove some of these, we want to add some more characters. So this slash GI is basically for case sensitivity. Let's say I want to remove the asterisk. Okay, I'm going to save this. Save. Go back. Hit a submit. Come back to the console, and you see the asterisk has been removed. Okay. Let's add some more special characters to this. Maybe semicolon or the percentage. Okay. Let's add a semicolon here. Let's see if that gets removed. See, the semicolon has been removed. Okay. Now let's do something about the equal to. Okay. Okay. Let's do something about the equal to. Let's go back, hit submit, come back here, and see the equal to sign has been removed. What else? Let's take care of, let's say, a dollar. Okay. Or let's say another example of at the rate. Okay. Let's add these two sample characters also, at the rate and dollar. Okay. Go back here, hit submit, come back, and you see in the string that we printed out, these characters have been removed. Okay. Even let's say a single quote. These need to be skipped. Submit. Did we have a quote here? No. Okay. Let's put some single quotes. Okay. Go back and hit submit. Come back here and see all the single quotes have been removed. Right. Now, one of the things that you can do when you get these special characters is either send an alert back to the user if you detect them, or simply, as we have done this, as to replace those characters before a certain field or information is sent to the database. Right? Now, if you want to raise an alert, what we could do is before doing the replace, we're going to just put a if statement. Okay. And basically, you're going to say, if you're going to search and find these characters, special characters here, then give a error. Okay. You're going to go back to Postman and submit. Okay. And it says error special characters found. Right. So now we could either find these characters and send an alert back to the user, or we could simply replace these special characters before any of this information is sent to a third-party system like a database or a file system, where these special characters may be interpreted and actually make your API give results back which you did not originally intend to. Okay. I hope you like this video. I'll see you on the next one.